How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Insidious. This is from 2011 and was directed by James Wan. It stars Patrick Wilson, Rose Byrne, and Lin Shaye. And this is about a couple that move into a new house with their kids, and some spooky stuff starts to happen. But the big thing that kicks this whole thing off is one day their kid won't wake up. He's in a coma, and after he's in the coma, a bunch of spooky stuff starts happening all around the house, which prompts the family to move. However, in the new house, things don't let up, and they call a psychic who explains to them it's not the house that's haunted, their son is. So yeah, a pretty cool setup here. It's not the house that's haunted. Anyway, I guess I should go on with some background for this movie. This is one of the best horror movies of the 2010s. It's a really great modern horror classic, and it was also James Wan's comeback. James Wan had made Saw, and then after Saw, he made Dead Silence, which was a pretty fun ventriloquist dummy movie. And then he made Death Sentence with Kevin Bacon, which is this grindhouse action throwback. It's really good. Go check out Death Sentence. But anyway, while those two movies, Dead Silence was fun, but it's not the best thing ever, and Death Sentence was great, but neither were financially that great. They weren't super financially successful, and people thought James Wan might be a one-hit wonder. However, not everybody believed that. This movie was produced by Jason Blum. Jason Blum would go on to make Blumhouse, and he said that there are certain people that get kind of screwed over by the Hollywood system, people with massive untapped potential that really need another chance to go out and make great movies. So he saw the potential in Wan and helped get this movie off the ground. Also, talking about Saw, Leigh Whannell, who helped write Saw and also he starred in it, in this movie, he helped write it and also starred in it. So good to have Leigh Whannell back. Leigh Whannell, by the way, would go on to direct the movie Upgrade, another really good movie, a sort of a tech horror movie. But anyway, when all this was announced, when you had the first trailers dropping, people really underestimated this movie. You had the guy that did Saw, he had a few movies that weren't super financially successful, and now here he comes with a PG-13 horror movie. Everybody thought this was going to be a cash grab, or at least a lot of people did, and so many people underrated it. You know, personally, I really wanted to see it, but, you know, a lot of people were like, that's just going to be a PG-13 low-budget horror, who cares about it? But then you actually go and watch it. In addition to being one of the best movies of the 2010s, this is also one of the best PG-13 horror movies of all time, and it really is amazing you can get this scary in the PG-13 rating. So yeah, a lot of people underestimated this when it came out, and then they went and saw the movie, and it really scared them. It is way, way better than everyone thought it would be. But why is this better? What are the movie's strongest points? Well, first of all, I have to mention, this movie looks really, really good. Really great cinematography and shot choice. Now, cinematography is kind of a difficult thing in horror movies because you make them look too good, and it's not necessarily gonna look scary, but this movie has really beautiful cinematography, but it also looks scary, kind of that elegant and suave horror. I mean, look at the movie's title card. Big and gothic, really, really cool. But this movie uses a lot of muted colors throughout the whole thing, and it makes it seem like there's some sort of oppressive force just with this muting. But then you see why they're doing that, and that's when the things kick off, when it's late at night and spooky stuff is happening. It's going to switch from the muted middle colors into highlights and shadows. It's going to go into heavy contrast. And let me tell you, there are some very spooky and very beautiful shots in this movie of a mostly dark room lit by just like a light bulb or a lamp or something. It's very, very good. And also shot choice, especially how the shots set up the scares and stuff. It's really, really cool with how these shots work. Lots of long shots, and they don't really... The shots are cool, but they're not trying to draw attention to how cool they are. The long shots aren't like, hey, look at this long shot. They're really more to keep you in the scene. Like one of my favorite long shots in this movie, well, it's really more a set of 2 long shots. You get this wife, she goes outside to throw away some trash, and we follow her from the inside through several different windows, and we think it's just the camera. But then she turns around and she sees something in the house. We weren't the camera, we were a ghost. And then you get the second longer shot from the outside looking through multiple windows back in, and she sees this creepy little boy ghost dancing around, and it follows through several windows, and it's really good. I don't want to describe every single shot here, but there's super impressive shots played off like they're nothing, you know. The wife hears something upstairs and the camera swoops past her over her shoulder and then goes up. Really, just study the shots in this movie. It's great. And it tells you what you need to know and doles out the little bit at a time necessary to set up all these scares. And it really is, how do you set up the gag? How do you get the scare to work? And the scares in this movie are done so well, especially considering aspects of scale. This movie starts off where after the introduction, one of your first scares is literally she puts books on the shelf and she comes back and they've fallen off. A really small, nothing scare. And then the later scares are like multiple groups of full-bodied apparitions. And this movie is a steady, ever-increasing sort of a flame. You know, everyone goes on and on about slow burns, but this is a steady and ever-increasing burn. It starts off, you know, there's no haha jump scare get you right off the bat within, you know, the first couple minutes. It starts off where it's slow and steady and builds up to where it can be doing several big crazy scares, but it goes and earns them, and then you get to the end and everything's going nuts. And I really love that sense of scale, and you get really, really good scares in this movie. The midnight alarm scene is really good. The Viewmaster scene is really good. There's a scene where they're trying to make contact with Dalton, and they got a creepy mask, and light bulbs start exploding everywhere. Really, really good. But this movie also has one of the best jump scares of all time. And I won't describe what it is because I don't want to ruin it for you. But if you've seen this movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I know a lot of people hate jump scares because they're quite often used wrong. This movie illustrates perfectly how to use jump scares right. So if you want to put jump scares in your movie, really check this movie out. It's how to do them right. But also, why the scares work, why we're so invested, is the family. It's real, and they spend a lot of time, like I said, in the beginning where it's not trying to be super scary, establishing that this is the real world, this is a real family, and it makes us, you know, kind of relate to them, you know? It makes you go, okay, these are real people, they're nice people, I care for them, I want them to survive, and it establishes, hey, this is your normal everyday world, and then it cranks up the danger, and then it cranks up the supernatural elements, but we've bought into it so much at the beginning that when it goes nuts, we're still in, we're still on it, And the human element is a very important part of James Wan's films. Obviously, The Conjuring would use this human element very, very effectively as well. And I have to say, a lot of the stuff James Wan learned in this, he definitely applied when he made The Conjuring later. And I have to say, one of the best movies of the 2010s, yeah, probably topped by The Conjuring, another one of his films. And I have to say, I love both films, and it really depends on my attitude. This is a more modern-looking horror film. The Conjuring is obviously retro, and this, goes bigger and crazier. Not that The Conjuring doesn't go big and crazy, but if I want a more modern, more crazy movie, I might go with Insidious, but The Conjuring's probably better made. But anyway, really, really great movie. Definitely a modern horror classic. Definitely check it out. Really, really well made. Really, really scary. And if you haven't seen it, seriously, go watch it as soon as you can. It's really good. Anyway, without further ado, I want to talk a bit more about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what this movie's about. So I'm going to analyze the movie, but I'll be avoiding the end bits. Anyway, we open up after a brief, sort of pre-credits scene, kind of introducing one of the ghosts. We open up with the family moving into the new house. They cut the moving in sequence with the truck, and you just see all the boxes scattered about. And you get this shot where the mom wakes up, gets out of bed, and she looks at an old family photo album, and one of the kids, Dalton, he's going to be the main kid for most of the movie, comes down and looks at the photos with the mom, and they're both wearing matching monkey pajamas, and they have really sweet dialogue, and it's a family scene, but a quieter family scene. And then after that, we get breakfast. Breakfast, everything's crazy, everything's chaotic, everybody is trying to get their morning started. So back to back, two very human, very, nice family scenes, but on different sides of the coin. A calm one followed by a chaotic one. So we really get the grounding of what this family is. Well, in the house, little things start to happen. Like I said, the books fall off a shelf for no reason. The door to the attic opens on its own. And when she goes in there, she finds there's a box of sheet music that had gone missing, and it's somehow in the attic for some reason. And one of their kids, Dalton, is drawn to the attic, and he falls off the ladder, but he's more or less okay. So a few little things, and you can kind of tell something's up, but then things kick off. And again, real world human horror. The dad, the next morning, ready for that second chaotic breakfast scene, the Dalton isn't down there. He goes up, and the kid's still asleep, and he says, "Hey, wake up, kid. It's time for breakfast." But he doesn't wake up, and he starts to shake him, and the kid will not wake up. And then you get another really, really great editing choice. Two really heart-wrenching smash cuts. The dad is trying to wake the kid up, smash cut to the hospital, and he's in the hospital, and the doctor's explaining, we don't know what's wrong with him, physically he's fine, he just won't wake up. And then he's like, okay, we don't know how long he would be here, it'll surely pass relatively soon. Smash cut to the title card 3 months later, and you see that they're moving the kid back to the house, and the nurse is showing the mom how to operate all the machinery, and they don't know how to wake him up, and he's just going to be living in a bed, in a coma for who knows how long. those two smash cuts where you're barely given time to process. Hey, wake up. Smash cut to the hospital. We think he'll be fine. Smash cut to 3 months later. It is really heart-wrenching, and we get to see the toll that it's taking on this family. The mom is sad and she's trying to distract herself with music, but she can't. The dad is saying he needs to stay late and grade papers because he's a teacher, but he's really just moping in his office and not doing anything. And he gets home and the mom yells at him for abandoning her, and he winds up sleeping on the couch. A very real human element here, and you really get to see that it's taking a toll on them. But of course, the supernatural stuff is starting to tick up. We get a very famous scene where the alarm goes off in the middle of the night and they're running around trying to figure out what's going on, and then we get where like the mom thinks she sees someone through the lace that's covering the baby's crib. Very, you could almost see this as like a true story, a true horror story type deal, you know. The alarm goes off in the middle of the night, I thought I saw someone. And again, it's that good escalation from, hey, maybe there's something up, to there's definitely something up, but it's not crazy yet. The mom eventually is attacked by a full-bodied apparition, and they do decide to move house. I think I heard Lee Winnell say that he was tired of the horror trope where they just can't leave the house for some reason, and when he wrote this movie, he wanted to make sure that he wrote a horror movie where the family actually got out of the haunted house. So they get out and they think things are fine for a minute, but then we get that famous through the windows scene. She's putting out garbage and she looks back through the windows and she sees this old-timey kid, and she has a really fun sequence where she's looking for this kid that got into her house. And yeah, the ghosts have followed them to a new location. Patrick Wilson's mother says that she had a bad dream, a vision that Dalton was in trouble, and one of her friends is a psychic, and she's told her to come over and check out the house and make sure everything's okay. But how does the mom know a psychic? Well, we'll find that out in a bit. But the psychic, of course, played by Lin Shaye, who after this movie would go on to do a ton of horror films because she's really good in this. She has lots of cool equipment, and she also has these two guys that are helping her, and these two guys do lend a good sense of humor to the movie. They kind of have a rivalry with each other. You know, there's even just this one really simple scene where one of them pulls out a flashlight and the other one pulls out a bigger flashlight. Really good sense of humor, really good sense of, you know, technology and how do we track the ghost. And this leads to some really cool scenes. I mentioned the Viewmaster scene before. It also leads to the drawing scene, which is a great scene as well. And Eloise eventually says, the ghost followed you because it's not the house that's haunted, it's your son. And she goes on to explain, and I won't spoil it, but what might be happening. And it will require going further into this ghost stuff, and you can get your son back, but we have to go on wacky ghost adventures. And it's really great, it's really crazy, it's really extreme, and you buy it though. And that's the thing with this, is you definitely do buy it. They set up so much that this is the real world, and they do scares that aren't crazy and over the top, but they build it up right, where you have no trouble by the time we get to this point in the film believing that this stuff can happen, because we've had that slow and steady escalation that allowed us to get here without feeling like it's wacky. And I love how big and crazy this goes at the end without going unbelievable. And it's really just amazing that they could pull this ending off in a movie that's, you know, like I said, the first scare after the introduction is just books falling off a shelf. It really is a great ending, and I do love how far it goes. And yeah, a lot of the stuff James Wan learned here, he would later reapply to The Conjuring, and you can see him learning from this project and making another classic film. But it was this film being successful that proved James Wan wasn't a one-hit wonder. This let him do The Conjuring, and then after The Conjuring, he would eventually do Malignant, another great and classic horror film. And he would also do big crowd pleasers. He would do Aquaman and Furious 7. So, yeah, this movie really kicked off a lot, and I really do, I really do love James Wan movies. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my James Wan playlist, where you can see me talk about a bunch of other James Wan things. I have a review for his 2 Conjuring movies, as well as Malignant, and I even have a complete physical media collection in there as well. So if you want to see me talk about more James Wan stuff, you can see it in this playlist down here. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. James Wan playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.